everyone, Pastor Nancy here. I really miss you, so I thought that maybe you might be missing a bit of Sunday school too. So I've put together a little Sunday school lesson, and I hope that we'll have a lot of fun. One of the questions I wondered about today was, how big is God? Have you ever wondered how big God is? Have you ever wondered if you could get to know him, or see him, or at least know what kind of person he is? That seems kind of hard because God's like bigger than all the world because he created the world. But the Bible tells us things about God, like who God is in his character. So I was looking at Psalm 85, verse 15. It says, "The Lord is kind and gracious, slow to anger, faithful, and overflowing with love." Wow, that's so awesome. Sometimes we wonder, can we see those things about God? Well, I want to say sometimes we might have to look hard. And so I'm wondering if you want to help me play a game. And in that game, it's going to help us look for things that are hard to find. Are you ready? Here it comes. It is called... Let's spot the match. I'm going to show you two cards, and on each card there's only one animal that matches. Here's the first one. You ready? See if you can spot the match. Might take us a little while to find it. It's definitely not the blue whale. Here's a little hint. It's an insect, and he's hiding under some... Oh, you got it before I even said anything. It's the ant. Good job. Here's the second one. On the second or the third thing, this animal is sitting sideways. It quacks. The duck. All right, you guys are pretty good at this. I found it really hard the first time that I did it. This is another insect. It's one in the summertime. We don't really like them. Kind of bzzz. The mosquito. Good job. If you're finding it hard, just pause the video and take your time to look. Here comes the next one. It lives in a warm country, kind of a tall animal, but in this picture, I think it's kind of one of the smallest ones in there. Oh, I heard somebody say it. The giraffe. This one loves to swim in the ocean. Aha, it's the rainbow fish. Good job. Okay, got another one. It's a farm animal. Oh man, sometimes I find it really hard. Sometimes I have to go, it's not the whale, it's not the snake. Oh, it's the pink guy. He's big in one picture, small in the other. The pig, right on. Two more to go. What do we see here? Oh, good one, the bat. Last one, and it's going to take us right back to where we started from. This one's a little bit hard because the animal's the same color as the page. The sheep. Oh, you guys did a really good job. That's awesome. Well, here we go. This is just amazing. It's hard sometimes for us to see and match things up, like matching God's character with things in our life. Now, today, I'm going to ask you a tough question. The question is, what is something bad that you've done in the last week? Can you see it? I'm not a very good camera. Oh, there we go. What is something you got into trouble for this past week? I bet most of you don't get into trouble very much. Well, I'm wondering if you might want to hold on, take a guess about what our theme is today. It's one of the characters of God that we saw in Psalm 85. And after I show you the theme, we're going to move right into our story for today from the book of Judges. Here we go. Here comes our theme, and then the story.
Previously, in the Big God story, we were introduced to an amazing group of leaders called the Judges. Men and women that God raised up to be incredible leaders, powerful examples to his people who would draw them back to him when they got distracted and drawn away. All in all, God used 12 different judges during this part of Israel's story. Some of them, like Deborah and Gideon, were powerful leaders that used the responsibility that God gave them very well and were able to lead his people back to him. And for a while things would be good until his people got distracted again. And they would run after the things that they thought were best. They would just get all turned around about what was right and what was wrong. And instead of worrying about what God wanted, they would do what they wanted. Do the things that they thought were best. Things got so backwards that even some of the judges stopped being a good example. Judges like the mighty Samson, even though they had incredible gifts and God's direction in their life, did way more harm than good and set a terrible example for God's people and did not lead them back to him. And after a long enough time of God's people doing what they thought was best instead of what God wanted, their hearts went from being in a very good place actually becoming quite rotten, and things in their home became absolutely awful. It wasn't a peaceful place. It wasn't a happy place or a restful place. It was downright awful. And God's faithfulness was tested. When other people would leave, God stayed. When other people would forget their promises, God leaned in and sent one last judge. This judge would be different from the rest and had a very specific job to do because God is faithful.
Wow. That story about the judges talked about how many times the Israelites continued to get into trouble time and time and time again, and judge after judge after judge, even though God rescued them from all their troubles again and again. And after a while, the people became so corrupted that even the judges began to behave badly. But God never gave up on his people. He remained faithful. Sometimes you and I get into trouble, like the question that we asked earlier. But remember, God is faithful. He is kind, and he hardly ever gets angry, and he's gracious. God never gave up on the Israelites, no matter how much trouble they got into. And God will never give up on you, no matter how much trouble you get into. This week's questions help us think about ways that God gives us so many chances, just like the Israelites. And it helps us think about whether or not we should also be more forgiving to other people who need lots of chances. Well, in your email, there was another little piece of paper. It's called a journal page. A journal page that's going to help us think about how God is faithful. And it has some questions about wondering why God didn't give up on people sooner, or why he kept giving them more chances, and why God gave them not just one chance or two chances, but hundreds of chances to help get them out of trouble and to learn to love God. So, you can go in your email, you can color a page, and you can answer your question. And I hope that as you go through this week, you will find ways in which you'll find that God is faithful and that he loves you and he gives you lots of chances. We'll see you again later.